1949, the NATO was organized, and Russia saw the organization of NATO, the formation of NATO by the 12 countries, as an aggression. But then they succeeded because at the time, the president of the Soviet Union was not as proactive, he was not far-sighted, so they was able to break apart the Soviet Union country without shooting a single gun. So Russia have always seen NATO. And then what happened in 1991, December 25th, the Soviet Union fell apart. Mikhail Gorbachev resigned from a country that never existed because at the time all the countries had left. And then the Soviet Union flag was brought down from the Kremlin, and then the Russian flag was posted up. So if you see all of those 15 countries that made up the Soviet Union, you will see all of them get independence again in 1991. So what has happened to Russia from the formation of NATO and up from the Cold War and up to 1991 when Soviet Union was dissolved? Russia also keep it at the back of their mind. Secondly, Russia also see that there are a lot of countries that left the Soviet Union that have also joined NATO. And if you look at the map of Russia, Russia is being encircled by those countries that are joined NATO. NATO was first 12 countries, now they are 30. And the geographical location of Ukraine, it places them in a position that they can gather military intelligence and other things because there are almost 40 million Russians that are of Ukrainian descent.
Okay.
So they are people that you cannot easily differentiate unless they themselves know themselves. Even in Ukraine, there are people that in fact all the Ukrainians speak Russian. They speak the Russian language. So Russia is telling NATO, do not allow Ukraine to join NATO. Because Russia herself has made a series of attempts to join NATO, and Russia have been blocked from joining NATO. So if Ukraine join NATO, then Russia will be completely encircled. So every attempt that Russia have made, that NATO have made to open arms to Ukraine to join NATO, Russia has signed a caveat that don't allow Ukraine to join NATO because Ukraine is situated in a way that Russia cannot avoid Ukraine. All of the about 60 to 80% of the pipelines for the Russian oil, a state-owned company that runs into Europe, that supply the oil of Europe, it runs through Ukraine. So there are a lot of economic benefit, and there are other areas that are. So they tell you, do not allow Ukraine to join NATO.
Now, Rufus, so if Russia had seen Ukraine to be so strategically important to it, do you think the path of aggression is the solution to convincing Ukraine not to join NATO?
I thought you would say that.
Yeah.
You know, when you, Mr. George, international politics do not work like the way we look at things like a family case to say the older person is not wrong and the younger person is always wrong. There are policy, there are laid down rules, and there are also tools and methodology that people use when it comes to international politics and diplomacy. There's an acronym called DARME. It's DRME. It's actually diplomacy, information, military, and economic. But in its application, the aim is last, which is the military. So the approach that most Western power use when it comes to international diplomacy, when it comes to interaction with other nations, they use that DARME. It's an acronym. So some people use economic to enter your country, some people use diplomacy, and some people use information. They gather information about the country, and then they come with economic development, and then they open their embassy. So, like what you said, the art of aggression, I think is Russia's own methodology, which are default with them. Because the military should be the last resort when it comes to international diplomacy.
Surely.
And I think Russia still has a lot of options. Because Russia also brings a lot of things to the table. Yes, Russia brings a lot of things to the table. And there are a lot of there are a lot of collateral damages that are going to happen if a powerful nation like Russia decide to just resort into military instead of diplomacy, information, economic, before getting to military. So it's like they started from the last to this, and this is why the war is against them.
Now, so let's look at the issue of sovereignty. You spoke about how Ukraine is important to, strategically important to Russia's interests, and it doesn't want Ukraine to join the NATO. Now, where does the issue of sovereignty, when does it come in?
You see, sovereignty in international politics, it has its own definition. And but there is something I want to push here. There's something I want to tell you, that the powerful nations, the North and the South, they do exist in international politics. The North are the richest country, and the South are always the poorest country. And one of the pillar of international diplomacy or international politics, it is spread around. It is built around two major things. When you are coming with your foreign policy, your national interest and your vital interest. Those things, I don't care. There are other people that make it 3, other people that make it 4, 5. But your national interest and your vital interest, those things, those vital interests are what you cannot do with. Like Liberia, Mr. George, if any president decide to be president of this country and don't be friendly with those nations that are supplying rest to Liberia, and rest price have to go up, there will be chaos here. So when we are carving our foreign policy, regardless of the regime, regardless of whosoever that is in power, we have to have a foreign policy that will be in the national interest of the people, and then we'll seek the what we cannot do without. Now, national security is something that is very important in the national diplomacy. If your national security is threatened by another man's movement, you have the right to do some intervention. And there is the intervention I was talking about down. You have to go for diplomacy, information. Perhaps like what is happening in Iran. The America feel that Iran developing nuclear weapon is a threat to the national security. But America is not going to invade Iran. What they have done, they carry diplomacy. When they gather information, and they are doing economic investment into Iran. They are subsidizing Iranian order because they are saying that we are doing our nuclear program for economic use, not for military use. But I have to tell you that over 90% of those nuclear programs that started at economic use turned up in for military use.
I know. Now, why do you think, Rufus, that Russia could have exploited or made use of the diplomacy or the information or the economic instead of military?
I think Russia. I want you to get. I think Russia is harboring fear.
Okay.
There's an African proverb that says, "When you have been bitten by a snake, if you see the tail of a lizard, sometimes you tremble." And Russia have seen what happened in Kosovo. Russia have also seen what happened during the Cold War. Russia have seen that 14 members of the almost 14 members of the ex-Soviet Union countries have joined NATO. Diplomacy perhaps has failed. I don't know their methodology because it has worked.
Information has failed as well.
Yeah, information has also failed. So I think that if we get to the war issue, I think that Putin is using some kind of man-made theory now to say, because actually Russia is not able to sustain our war for a month.
You sure of that?
Yes, I'm very sure of that. In fact, I was doing an article.
Doesn't Russia have a source of strength? You think Russia is not being supported by some other countries or whatever?
They are not going to come out straight to support Russia openly, like many people were thinking about China.
Surely.
But I think the Chinese president is doing extremely well in breaking up peace, and he had made some commitment. He was on the telephone. He made a telephone call to President Putin. So Russia is afraid of what have happened in the past, because mind you, NATO have allowed those countries that broke away from Russia to join NATO. Now, our young Putin in somewhere 2002, when Bill Clinton was president of the United States, visited Moscow, and Putin asked and Bill, the President Clinton, whether Russia could have joined NATO. They have never allowed that to come to agenda item to be discussed, like parliamentary procedure where if you go, you put something on the floor. When you now go to committee room, or they have not become an agenda item, it cannot be discussed. So Russia have been stopped from joining NATO, but Russia also see their national security. So if someone of a sovereign country, their movement, their affiliation, the attachment is going to threaten your national security, then you will have to differ with it. So it doesn't have to do with sovereignty, it has to do with your national security, because it comes first. If you're joining MRU is going to threaten national security, then I brought up what are the MRU. And that's the way it works in the international community.
You're listening to the Super Money Show, rated on the OBC 99.9 and also frequencies across Liberia. We are looking at what's happening in Ukraine, and between Ukraine and Russia. We're looking at the diplomacy that will be played. We'll be talking about the issue of sanctions. We heard that sanctions will be coming against Russia, whether they're going to be effective. World leaders, in fact, have begun speaking against what Russia is doing. And also, we'll look at the knock-on effects on Africa. We'll look at that before. But let's talk about a reaction from world leaders now. First, let me read this one from our own country. Today, the world woke up to the news of the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, despite diplomatic efforts to defuse the building tensions. The Republic of Liberia condemns this new wave of unprovoked aggression and attacks on the territorial integrity of Ukraine and, by extension, of neighboring countries. This should be condemned in the strongest terms by all nations of the world. The Republic of Liberia still maintains its position in line with the UN General Assembly's resolution in 2014 and calls on Russia to give peaceful dialogue a chance, thereby sparing the lives of innocent citizens and foreign residents in Ukraine, and also protecting the sovereignty of Ukraine. Liberia joins the rest of the world in urging Russia to unconditionally cease hostilities, de-escalate, and allow diplomacy and dialogue to take its course and bring relief to the peaceful citizens of Ukraine as well as the region. Signed, that's a statement signed by the Minister of Information. Now, what do you think, what do you make of the reaction from world leaders?
Well, the reaction is, they are all in place. You know, if you ask me, I think that the world leaders are also, they are reactionary. You know, more dialogue could have been, you know, just in 2000 January 2022, you know, Putin have sent a last message to NATO from, you know, discouraging them from, you know, allowing Ukraine to join NATO. And this is what I agree with the Liberian government position. And everybody have condemned Russia, but I think that the world leaders they have failed also. They have not done much. There are civilians that are dying in Ukraine. There are innocent people that are dying. You know, I think this should have been subverted from the earlier stage. This should have been subverted. Look, Liberia, and this is what I said from a very beginning. Liberia can never join any military alliance that will be against the security of the United States.
Surely.
Because they are our ally. They are our major ally in the north. They are people that we look up to. It is very easy for a Liberian to obtain a visa to go to the United States. So if Liberia will be part of any military alliance, any organization that America sees that as a threat, they are definitely going to discourage us from being a part. So we're working on it's a little bit, you know, funny to other people. When a nation, you know, for now the war is and some people say that unipolar is the war system, but everybody know that America is the superpower now, undisputed superpower. Until other things can be proven, the military budget, the strength of the military. But there are other people that continue to, you know, to go against America, because if the men are able you, the men will go and come your son here.
Now, you made a statement that, you know, the reactions from, but before that, let me also read the reaction from former U.S. President Barack Obama, you know, just on his speech, and he also reacted last night. Russia launched a brazen attack on the people of Ukraine, a violation of international law and basic principles of human decency. Russia did so not because Ukraine posed a threat to Russia, but because the people of Ukraine chose a path of sovereignty, self-determination, and democracy. For exercising rights that should be available to all people and nations, Ukrainians now face a brutal onslaught that is killing innocent and displacing untold numbers of men, women, and children. The consequences of Russia's reckless actions extend beyond Ukraine's borders. This illegal invasion in the heart of Europe also threatens the foundation of the international order and security. Let me leave it there.
Yeah, you see,
that's a reaction from Barack Obama.
There's something that I picked up about international law. Look, Mr. George, if you know how international politics work, you will not really have to depend on the implementation of international law, and let's say for in a rudimentary way to misbehave, because those international laws, there are a lot of loopholes out there for people to circumvent the laws. And the international laws are a base, the implementation of the international law is based on the strength of a nation. Everybody knows that it's against international law to invade a country. But this is what is happening. NATO has continuously pushed Ukraine to join Russia, to join NATO. Now, Ukraine is not a full member of NATO yet. Russia has seen that as an aggression. And President Obama can say what he wants to say, but in the real truth, Ukraine being part of NATO is a threat to Russia's security.
Okay.
Yes, it's a threat to Russia's security. I believe in the US. I believe that if the war is most safer when the US is a superpower as compared to any other nation. And I believe that the US have given the world or look that everybody can exercise their franchise and do other things freely. But I also believe that the reality is to perpetuate yourself at a certain level, you have to know about your competitors. And there are things that are happening in Russia that they don't see. They want to see it. And the window to Russia is Ukraine.
Okay. Now, what is happening now? I know it has its own trickle-down effect. It has its own implication as well on Africa. Then coming down, narrowing down to our own Liberia. Now, let's look at the knock-on effect of the Russia's invasion of Ukraine on Africa.
Yeah. First, Africa will not just feel it automatically.
Okay.
And because Russia is one of the highest producer of gas, one of the highest producer of gas and oil in the world. And they supply the Eastern Europe, Western Europe, and out in the Europeans are feeding it first, because most of those sanctions that have been placed on Russia, people do not go to war in this modern dispensation. They do not do preemptive strike. I think Putin has been prepared, and whatsoever sanction they will place on Russia, they are not placing it on the Kremlin or member of the Kremlin. It is the Lord, is the citizenry that will suffer that effect. And there is somewhere around this morning there was a 1.4% increase in the price of cooking gas, fuel, and other things. And you know, most of the European vehicles use fuel. Yes. So there will be a Russian gas and oil. They are cheap. They are very cheaper. So they will go for the Arab guys, and they are going to spend more money. The Liberia, for Africa, we have Nigeria, we have Angola. There are other countries in Africa that produces, oil. But this is what is going to happen. And the European with their money now, with the sanction on Russia, they are going to rush on the African market. They are going to rush where we go to buy our thing like $2-3. They are going to bring more there, and then it will have a trickle down effect was, but it's not going to be automatic. Okay. Yes. And
now, when you say it will not be automatic, when do you think? Because you initially said that Russia will not be able to sustain that war for a month. So when do you think something going to trickle down on Africa?
Yeah, like I was saying, I wanted to paint out a point. Yeah, before coming to that, Russia will not be able to sustain the war for a month. Today is the 5th day since the official invasion started, and I think that up to this time, people have just been speculating on Putin's aim. Most people analysts talk that he was going to the breakaway region in Ukraine, in Western Ukraine. Those two separatist movements that declared they are independent. They were the one that invited him, and he was going to stop Ukrainian aggression. But now he's going to Kiev. So who knows whether he want to he want to replace the democratically elected president with a Russian puppet who will be there to listen to Russia. On the other side, and it will not be automatic because everybody has to. Dating started and the gas prices stayed the same, relatively. But if we enter like after 2 to 3 weeks, going to the 4th week, a month, and then it will start to have effect on the African market. But Europe, there's a pipeline running directly from Russia straight into that place. While I said Russia is not able to maintain, is not able to sustain our war for a month, there are tougher sanctions that can be placed on Russia. And I think the nations that are standing against it, they are still negotiating. But if everybody agree and they just take Russia out of the SWIFT, Russia will not be able to settle for foreign bills. Money will not be able to come into Russia because the SWIFT is an international transfer system that they use for money transfer. Over 11,000 financial institutions use SWIFT for financial transaction. So if they take Russia out of that SWIFT, they're not able to build that SWIFT for like 1 or 2 days. So, and they are pushing it, and they will do that. Okay.
You're listening to the Super Money Show, rated on the OBC 99.9 and also frequencies across Liberia. I'm trying to establish contact with Mr. Marcus Sheriff. Mr. Sheriff is the head of the Liberian students in Russia, in Ukraine rather. He spoke for us last week. I held an interview with him, and of course he told me that they were trying to mobilize Liberian students to the shores that they are taken to a safer country, and after which taken to a safer country, and after which they can see what can happen. But he said they've been in contact also with the Liberian government. So we'll be right back, I'm sure, after the sports for I'll get to see our sports team. I'm trying to get our sports team. I can. But in the meantime, let me open the lines for you. And as soon as our sportsman gets prepared, we can take the sports right away. 07, our guest here is a student of international relations. He's here with us. He's Rufus Jackson Looh. You can put your calls now on 0776 540 987. Again, 0776 540 987. or better still, 0880-514-096. Again, 0880-514-096. That's the number to call, and you are live on the SMS. We've gone international, looking at what's happening in Roche. Let's take this caller quickly on the line. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
I'm doing the government program 20 from the Shuttle to be precise, Yusuf Fajr.
Let's hear from you.
Let me give details to the studio guest in studio debt. I think, from my own calculation, and understanding that the one of the gross scientists when it comes to political and government affairs. Whatsoever point in what you say in the studio that it makes sense. Russia is not just a small country wanted to do your war on. And you put your logic that Russia has to want preparing for the Bengal war, that's it. So other countries will not just, and Russia is looking at what they too low. So they will just work in Russia just as go on. Ukraine is not part of war for Russia. So just give that best in the education world and mind very much the conversation.
Okay, many things. Let's get this call on the line quickly. Good morning. Okay. Okay. Many thanks. Let's take this call on the line quickly. Good morning. Okay, go right ahead. Many thanks. Let's take this call on the line quickly. Good morning. Good morning. Hello? Okay, we take this other call on the line. Let's take this one. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Sorbor George. This is my family calling for Ghana Brothers to Grandpa under the context of one country.
Let's hear from you, sir.
Mr. Sorbor George, I would like to tell you, because the man trying to say, I said, oh, what is the food? You know, Russia have left one of the biggest superpowers in the world. And if you have 25 people, and take people on a table for oil and put a carry their tree there, then you see that the whole party is about to fight their parents. So that you see all of them things rather than the same compassion. Because if we have to go and go on this road, every time they will say, Russia. So let's say Russia is taking a team back. I don't think that Mr. George, because they can take a defensive position. So once they enter at the field, and get to the field, then the area is balanced.
Okay.
So I will say the state can take you for what it is. And Mr. George, I'll put it out there and come on. I want to explain it to you so that we can talk.
Many thanks. Let me just go to the line. Good morning. I'm okay, sir. Let's hear from you. Many thanks. Let me just go on the line. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. This is William from watching from the day before my game.
Let's hear from you, sir.
Yeah. I really love the. I want to appreciate our speaking yesterday and I really into this morning. But man, the fact or our government is that our people will start getting okay, won't behave, they come to the community and start if we get on that free money, the issue of Catholics or bad age and just color protection was not good enough to not have to get on that. And I didn't think it was that also what was very so come down.
Okay. Okay. 07786415549 or better still 0880540 Good morning. Good morning, sir. Let's hear from you, sir.
But it's wrong. Just answer. You don't have to do something. You have to do something along the line. It's not correct. So what I say is wrong. Now, most of them is wrong on our students. I'm not. It's for them to get this morning. What is wrong?
Many thanks. Let's take this call on the line quickly. Another caller is there. Good morning. Good morning. 0776. Good morning. Good morning, sir. Let's hear from you.
I just want to thank the students and I want to thank the European Union for sending me. On Ukraine side, I want to thank the American government for blessing and support for Ukraine. And all the international countries, the civil countries that bless and support for Ukraine, I want to thank them. know, Russia feel that they are the only men in the world that nobody can stand in front of them. So by the power of God, people use that, but they must be at them, because they see that, you see the people see that every time they gather to my brother, you don't want their honor for you. Oh, for you bring back. Thank you.
Many thanks. 0776-540-987 or better still 0880-514-096. We are looking at what is happening in Ukraine. That's the Russian-Ukraine crisis and the knock-on effect on Africa. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Your name and where you calling from?
My name is Jalan Makoy and I'm from Israel.
Let's hear from you, sir.
The whole issue about the attack in Ukraine by Russia, what discourages me is the involvement and condemnation of that act by America and the likes of France and others. What is America doing in Iran? What is the weapon of mass destruction as it says Saddam Hussein has? What does Libya do to that Gaddafi that the weather and destroy Libya? So the Lord has still a whole hand of the beginning condemning other people for such acts. Because what's happening in the world today is our might makes it right. So those who are great in weaponry, in food and other things, they abolish on others. So America and their life don't have any moral ground to condemn Russia. Thank you.
Many thanks. So let's take this call on the line. Good morning. Good morning. Yes, good morning, sir. Good morning. Okay, Jenna, let's hear from you.
Yeah, my dear brother, thank you for the show and thank you for the guest. You know, when people also want to work and get as much as strength to displace that people in us and they have it to Russia. Now, Russia just yesterday, the citizen of Russia, they are not in the same process against Putin. And now, this city, we are then supported by every company group that supporting you with allegations now. Yesterday, state of his cap aircraft was brought down by Ukraine. What will you people also by the person that is big person? So I think the Prince Apollo just said, I was still thinking that I said that they shouldn't because the what happening in Russia now, actually, if you just trade and do anything with the prices, so like a barrier up. So we then and then the government comes down on us and just get that investment so that they get better. Thank you for the problem.
Many thanks. So let's take this call on the line. Good morning. Yes, good morning. Yes.
One thing I do for you are because those days that we have this motion, people can get power for you, little girl. One day you will leave only your little girl, boy will be calling you or home to get to you. So I try to say, why Russia can bring to other countries. I think it's everything has been moved because we have seen you moving, and it's just of course you do the thing. It's not picked up. So get a party then start a day and this is the war and start to promote
Good morning.
Okay. Many thanks. Good morning. We have your call on the line. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Sorbor.
Yes, sir.
This is Emerson Jacobs from Sports Complex area.
Let's hear from you, sir.
Yes, the analysis given by the studio guests, yes, many of them are in place. Because I know the country, Russia, what is it called, Ukraine. Yeah. What Russia is doing is not just now, it's okay, well, when Ukraine broke away, that's when they started that. Ukraine is an industrial state at the time, they were Soviet Union. And so for Ukraine to break away, it hurts Russia so much. In Ukraine, they were producing the warship, the aircrafts. And then Ukraine is being used as a pipeline to Russian supply of oil to other countries. So for Ukraine to break away, that threat has been in their hand long time. So it's a premeditated stuff that they are doing to overlook Ukraine. When I was in Ukraine, my professor was telling me that they will break away from Russia. They will break away from Russia. But the problem they're having is that they're looking for a potential president, a president that will lead a nation.
Okay.
So it was because of that when Ukraine broke away, the other countries broke away, they got furious about the whole thing. The analysis the mayor is making is true. I was in the Ukraine. You know, so when you see Russia fighting Ukraine, you will know that their position, it says that, as other people were saying, when snake bites you, then when you see lizard tail, then you can be jittering.
Okay.
That's what happening. So for me, I condemn the attitude of Russia for doing that. And Putin is very arrogant. I know him.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Many thanks. He knows Putin very much. Now, let's hear from you finally, so we can take leave of you, Mr. Rufus Jackson Looh, a student of international relations and politics. What do you think going to accrue from all of the diplomatic negotiations ongoing to end this whole crisis in Ukraine and Russia, and how soon is it?
Well, thank you very much. And I think that there are things that need to be done. There are things that should have been. And I think that it is not yet all over yet, because there are still ways that we can find remedy to the crisis. We can go back to the previous methodology that I told you. We can go to diplomacy. And I think this is why NATO is using. And this is why America is using. They are still using diplomacy because America predicted the date of the invasion and it came to pass. So it means that they also got information. But trust me, Mr. George, that not a single American boot is going to step on the Ukrainian soil because America knows her boundary. Ukraine is not part of NATO, and with the art of aggression, they can only have a diplomatic approach to it, condemn Russia like the way we are all condemning their aggression, and also place sanctions on them that will cause them to find a solution. The international community can come together and have a united front. Because what happens in times like this is that there are people that have the tendency of not, that always happy in crisis. Some people survive, they flourish in crisis. So they want the world to be a crisis. A day ago, North Korea tested some of their ballistic missiles in the Japanese Sea, the Japanese Ocean, and towards South Japan. And you see the young man in North Korea there, he's someone who is ready to go to war anytime. And he will use this one, yes, to bring another out of aggression, and then things become uncontrollable. So say it's still Russia and Ukraine, the international community can find an amicable solution. The sanction on Russia, they know which sanction to place on Russia for Russia to stop this aggression. The Russian economy cannot crumble. It cannot crumble with the present sanction they have placed on them. It's not going to affect the Kremlin.
So they need to put more sanctions that will be biting.
Biting sanctions.
Okay.
And then it will come back to the table.
Okay.
Other than that, innocent lives, because there is no winner in war. Don't mind it. There is no winner in war. I don't care how sophisticated the Russian army is. In infantry, they will lose men.
Many thanks, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson, Rufus Jackson Looh is a student of international relations and politics. He's been here sharing the platform with us, making us to understand the genesis of the war between Ukraine and Russia, looking at the diplomatic negotiations, looking at security, and the knock-down effect. That's the knock-on effect on Africa. So he made reference to the process of gas that we may likely increase and maybe bite Africa if nothing is done quickly. Well, thank you very much. We did appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. George.
Okay.